Yo, Liverpool travelled to St James's Park earlier today where they beat Newcastle United 2-1. Anthony Gordon capitalised on a mistake from Trent Alexander-Arnold to give Newcastle a lead on the 25th minute before two superb late strikes from Darwin Núñez won it for the 10 men of Liverpool after Virgil van Dijk's first half red card. What a game of football. Before I get into the game itself, I want to mention the team selection very briefly. It was a starting 11 that I was expecting. The injuries to Curtis Jones and Thiago meant that we were always likely to see Wataru Endo start his first game for the club in midfield, in a midfield three of himself, Dominic Szoboszlai and Alexis McAllister. The injury to Konate meant that Joe Matip came into the centre of defence, preferred to Joe Gomez, and Cody Gakpo was selected to play ahead of Darwin Núñez and Diogo Jota in the centre forward position. Let's start with the positives from today's game. First and foremost, 3 points away to Newcastle. 3 points away to Newcastle, having played over an hour with 10 men. Secondly, Szoboszlai and McAllister. Very different from the personnel that we've had in those positions previously, but they're clearly two outstanding footballers. I still have some reservations about their defensive awareness at times. They didn't quite recover the ball as often as Joelinton or Tonali did for Newcastle, but their quality is there for all to see. Last, but by no means least, Darwin Núñez. Is this the true birth of his Liverpool career? Who knows? But those were two finishes of a man sending a message to not only the manager, but all of his doubters. He may not be able to jink past a man like Luis Diaz. He doesn't quite look after the ball as well as Cody Gakpo, and he doesn't have the tireless work rate of Roberto Firmino. But there's something really special about him. I think the box midfield that we saw towards the end of last season was designed to get the best out of Núñez, but because of his struggles out wide and him not quite having the skill set to play as a false nine in a Jurgen Klopp 4-3-3, but that's probably outside the scope of this video. Around 5 minutes into the game, Trent Alexander-Arnold was shown a yellow card for throwing the ball away in frustration. His frustration was caused by not receiving a free kick for a challenge made on him by Anthony Gordon. It was a clear foul, however, given the laws, it is probably a yellow card for Trent. How consistent the officials are in applying those laws is another discussion entirely. Just minutes later, Trent steps out towards Gordon, puts his arm across him when Gordon is in full flight with the ball at his feet. In my opinion, that's a second yellow card. Personally, I think the referee knows that he should have awarded the free kick to Trent minutes earlier before he picked up his first yellow card, and he's bottled this decision. Now, should those two indiscretions result in a player being dismissed from the game? Probably not, but I'd be extremely disappointed if I was a Newcastle fan. I think this is a good time to mention Trent's performance today. I thought he was terrible. I do have some sympathy with him as he couldn't afford to mistime a single challenge, and although I love Szoboszlai, he doesn't possess the same defensive awareness as the likes of Jordan Henderson did. So I don't feel like Trent has the same level of protection there either. But I still thought he was really poor, all things considered. Some might say that I'm reaching a little bit here, but I think Trent is culpable for the situation that leads to Virgil van Dijk's red card. He shows Gordon inside, Gordon obliges, and then Trent just leaves him to run into the space. He has time to lift his head and then thread that ball through to Alexander Isak. Alexander Isak is then fouled by Virgil van Dijk, and he receives a red card for he's been deemed to have prevented a clear and obvious goal-scoring opportunity or a clear goal-scoring opportunity. I'm not entirely sure that was the correct call, but regardless, it was really poor defending from Virgil van Dijk. I don't like talking about the officiating and I prefer to focus on the football, but how Newcastle committed 16 fouls today, many of them tactical, and only one of their players received a caution. If that game's played at Anfield, I think it's a different story, which really should not be the case. In my previous videos covering Liverpool performances, I've been critical of how Jurgen Klopp has set the team up. But we were 1-0 down at half-time today because of individual errors more so than the actual system deployed by the manager. I think we looked a lot more comfortable with a natural holding midfield player, and perhaps some of the newer players, Soboslai and McAllister, are starting to better understand their roles in Jurgen Klopp's 4-3-3. I still think there's an imbalance in the side, so this is something to keep an eye out for in future performances. A note on Wataru Endo's performance. I thought he looked very nervy, but given the circumstances, he did okay. He sold himself on a couple of occasions and his passing leaves a lot to be desired, but it's his first start for the club against a very good team in another game in which we played the majority of with 10 men. So I'm looking forward to see how he copes against Aston Villa next week. That's all from me. Please let me know your thoughts on the game in the comments section. Thank you for watching, and as I always say, if you somehow happen to come across this video, give it a like and subscribe for more football related content. Cheers.